Congratulations.
Congratulations everyone.
Thank you.
And what we could do is that we'll just lay out a brief outline of do's and don'ts for the interview, and then I think we'll be happy to take any questions from you guys. So, you want to go first? So, see, essentially from my side, what I can tell you is the most important thing to remember when you're going for this is that it's a personality test. That's what they've called it also, as opposed to an interview. So the first thing you need to know a lot of the times once the call comes, people are really worried about what kind of stuff they should start cramming or reading and the information they need to start taking in. Although that is important, but it's not a test of your information or your knowledge. It's a test of your personality. And they are trying to assess whether you are candidates who would fit into a good description of a civil servant. Whether you're a sincere person, a person of integrity, if you're confident, all of those things. So, but when I say personality, it's also imperative to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all kind of personality that the UPSC is looking for. You need to be able to project the best aspects of your personality in a good way. And how do you do that? So, not just should you be very thorough with your DAF, your detailed application form, because 98% of your questions are going to emanate from the DAF. And also, you will, once you start answering questions, it's your answers which will beget further questions. The board will be listening to what you are saying. So if there's a particular word that you mentioned, or if there's a particular thing you said, then you should really be very well aware of it. Don't just randomly put in words, etc., because they will just pick you up on that. And these people are so seasoned and so experienced that you can't sort of beat around the bush or fib with them. Also, another very important thing to keep in mind is that if there is something you are not sure about, if there's something that you don't know, then just say it with great humility that, sir, ma'am, I'm not aware of this. Instead of trying to guess too much and then going into the it just makes sense to not bluff with them at all. Just be very direct and just say that this is something that I don't know. That just shows that you're a person who's sincere, that you're honest, that if you don't know something, you're willing to accept that you don't know it. They don't expect you to be walking encyclopedias. They're just seeing that, do you have an idea as to why you want to be in the service? And what kind of value addition or contribution can you make to the service? So it's extremely important to know your hobbies, your state, your district, your educational background. If you've had any work experience, then you need to know about that really well. Your motivation to join the services. Why do you want to do that? I mean, that should be very clear. And what kind of role do you see you playing? Because a lot of people, when they come up with very trademark answers like, I want to help the poor and the needy, I want to do all that, they'll say, join an NGO. Work with the grassroots level, get your hands dirty, do something important. I mean, so don't say these very generic things. That doesn't make sense. From your point of view, with the kind of educational background that you have, what can you possibly do? And another important thing which I was speaking to Preeti all this while is that it's very important on the day of the interview to not lose your cool. You have to be very calm and collected, because that's all your effort. Out of the 3 stages, everything will then finally be pinned onto that. Of course, your written marks will help a lot. But you need to know that, and every board, like a lot of the time what people do is start psychoanalyzing the boards. And that is useful and important, but to an extent. You can't really guess that, okay, so-and-so person is like this is how I'll behave with them. You just need to be the best that you can be on that day, instead of trying to second guess what the board will ask you, or Mr. Agarwal is like this, or Mrs. Razdan is like this, so I'll behave in this manner. That doesn't really work, because you don't really know what kind of other members are there, what the board would really be in, what kind of moods they'll be. Plus, there are 3 new members this year who will be taking interviews for the first time. So you can't really, it's pointless to, you should have a fair idea of their backgrounds, what kind of questions they can ask you, what is their leaning in a manner of speaking. That you'll know from the kind of biodatas, which I'm sure Ajay sir was very helpful with us last year. They circulated, a brief background of all the UPSC members, or you can look it up online. Have an idea about that. But most importantly, work with your DAF. And be very crisp and precise in your answers. A lot of the time, because we've studied so much, we know our optionals, we've read so much GS, we tend to, get into these long monologues with people. I used to do that, because I'm someone who's generally fond of talking, and I can tend to go on. Yes, really. So, but then a lot of people told me that you have to be very precise. He was one of them. I spoke to him because I knew him through VisionIAS, and I spoke to him. His interview was before mine, and he also had Rajni ma'am's board. So he said, what is important is that you have to be very, very, just try and keep your answers to the point and ask only what you've been told. So these are some of the basic points that I like to tell you, and Nikhil will tell you whatever he wants to, and then you can just ask us the questions.
I mean, it's better to ask and see what's your point of view. So if you, each one of you can tell what is it that they are looking for. Okay, you have an idea. You are there are 5 families there. UPSC board, you will be selected for IAS, IFS, IFS, 40 central institute. You will be asked some 15 questions in 15 minutes. What will they ask and what will they look for?
Yeah, I mean, what I believe they are looking for primarily is to see whether the candidates of various backgrounds, various parts of the country, they are really looking for people who can really fit into the kind of profile a civil servant, which is IAS, IPS or IFS fits into. So they are trying to assess your personality, whether what you have done so far fits into, or at least you understand the reasons why you want to get into civil services, and what you have done so far will help you in the job you'll eventually want to get into. And they'll try to assess that and your understanding of those matters.
And what kind of questions they can ask to assess this?
I think primarily, of course, it can depend, but I think primary focus will be the stuff that we have shared on our profiles in the DAT. And that will lead into further questions which could also draw from current affairs topics, etc. But the primary source will, I believe, be the information that we've already shared with UPSC.
In fact, if you look at my case, I've worked for over 4 years in India and abroad, and that's where during this course I know I've made a lot of difference to myself and my immediate family. And what I'm looking ahead as a progressive step is to reach out to a great number of people, leveraging on what I've learned in the past. So I think you need to be sensitive to the issues around and also fit the institution, the administrative system.
So that's what they are looking for, that's what you meant.
Yeah.
So what kind of questions they'll ask them?
Probably board, as in what I've done in the past during when I worked for 4 years, and probably how it would help as a civil servant. What is the takeaway from there which will help you to become a good civil servant? On this line, I'm expecting more questions on this line.
मुझे लगता है कि वो देखना चाहते होंगे कि आप कितने कॉन्फिडेंट हैं और डिफरेंट सिचुएशन में आप कैसे रिएक्ट करते हैं, कैसे डिसीजन ले सकते हैं, और आप कितना सोच पाते हैं अपनी कंट्री के प्रॉब्लम्स के बारे में, और आपका विजन क्या है और आप कितने सेंसिटिव हैं। ये सारी चीजें हमें ये सारे पॉइंट में देखना चाहते हैं।
What kind of question they ask?
वो शायद मेरी पिछली
I mean, how will they ask the questions on your confidence?
वो कई तरह का ट्रिकी क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं कि आप ऐसे सिचुएशन में आप कैसे रिएक्ट करेंगे, कैसे हैंडल करेंगे, और वो शायद इस बहाने मेरा जो कॉन्फिडेंस देखना चाहते होंगे, और कैसे मैं टैकल करने के लिए सॉल्यूशन देता हूँ, कैसे मैं जो बताता हूँ कि उपाय क्या होगा, कैसे मैं ऐसे सिचुएशन में टैकल करूंगा। तो वो उससे शायद चेक करेंगे कि वो मैं कितना किस क्लास के प्रति मैं कितना सेंसिटिव हूँ और मेरे सॉल्यूशन क्या होंगे। तो इस बहाने वो मेरी पर्सनालिटी को शायद चेक कर रहे होंगे, अच्छा सही है, इसकी सोच ऐसी है, ऐसा ऐसे बिहेव करता होगा, ऐसे बिहेव करेगा। तो शायद इसके बहाने वो मेरा जो पर्सनालिटी को शायद वो बिल्ड करेगा।
Like he said, I think the UPSC is basically looking at how a candidate thinks and whether that thinking is suited to a career in civil services, and whether he's generally aware of what is going around and his thinking and opinion about issues which are of current importance.
Can you speak in earlier question?
Yeah, that's all I guess.
But what kind of question they ask you? Same thing, whatever they say.
Basically, it will be from your DA and some current affairs questions, I think, and your opinion and analysis of the.
I think the quality that they'll be really looking for is my honesty, my integrity, my thought process, and if I can fit in the system. And so those are the desired qualities that they'll be looking in me. And the questions will be to test those qualities. Like if they ask me some question in which I might have a temptation to be dishonest or something else, they'll try to ask.
They won't ask, do you take money?
Yes.
They won't ask that, you say no.
For example, I had a drop here, so they might ask me a question that, okay, why did you take a drop? I can say another answer, but they might say. And any other question in which situation-based questions to check if I give in the pressure or can I take that pressure or certain restrictions.
सिंपल सा है कि वो आपकी जो आपने लिखा है डीएम में, उसके बारे में आपने जो कोई भी काम किया वो कितने अच्छे तरीके से आपने अपनी पर्सनैलिटी को सामने, तो उनके सामने केवल वही चीज है, उसमें लिखी हुई चीज, बहुत एक्सपीरियंस लोग होते हैं वो उसी चीज से आपकी पर्सनैलिटी को मैच करते हैं कि आपने जो लिखा है और जो आप जो कह रहे हैं दोनों में कोई भेदभाव नहीं है। अच्छा, थोड़ा बहुत है उसकी वो छूट देते हैं, आपकी इसी से वो ईमानदारी चेक करते हैं।